welcome everybody to whatever this is going to be. I know our podcast is usually already pretty from the hip, and I don't even know if this is going to be its own episode, or a bonus episode, or stitched onto something else when we get around to it, but I had one of those thoughts hit my brain that I just wanted to sit down and talk this out and record something, because we haven't recorded in a while, and I thought it would be an interesting conversation. So Kermit the Grog, am here on this maybe pop culture talk zone, joined with my good pal Forward Progress.
Hello, hello.
Just us two for now, and as I said, we're even more firing from the hip than usual, so Nova Rose may be joining us later, maybe not, who knows, again, from the hip, just want to get this out of my brain. So, for ages, we've wanted to do an episode on labels. This may be attached to that very episode if we end up recording it one day, but a particular thought had struck me. Now, I personally am someone who has a hard time with labels. I don't like putting them on, I feel like they don't fit, I feel like they don't make a difference for me, even though they outwardly would. And I have trouble grappling with that. I feel like I don't fit anywhere, so I don't play with it. I don't like labels by that thing, and I'm figuring it out. But something struck me recently that made me rethink it a lot. So I guess my thing is, I guess I am, if we're approaching it from a quote-unquote normal direction, I am a cis male, who I guess is, it's not, again, this is where labels get complicated. I kind of go on the I'm whoever, I don't like using labels. I'm most used to the labels I've used forever before I thought about this, which I guess would then be a cis male who is straight. Even though that probably, in my behavior, does not actually match that. But that's not entirely what's important. So I'm someone, like I said, of just I don't like putting labels on it, like saying, I'm me, I do what I do, I like the people that I like, and I don't like to overcomplicate it. But where this got interesting was, there is a pro wrestler, again, to me, it always comes back to wrestling, who is very big in the indie scene named Effie, who is very known for, besides being very gay, thank you, comes out, he's got the mustache, he wears fishnets, but more than that, he's also a very good just professional wrestler in general. It's not like that's his only dimension. But he is really big about getting LGBTQ people into pro wrestling, which for a long time was very not okay with those types of people. Or if they were there, they were usually seen as a villain or a joke or something to ridicule and not, the amazing, wonderful thing that it is, because we're all freaking human rainbows, whatever. Hooray us. But the thing that got me thinking and why I'm monologuing to Forward right now about this is that he runs a show every year called Effie's Gay Brunch that is specifically showing off, that is almost purely for just having LGBTQ talent on it. And it dawned on me as I was listening to a podcast with him on it talking about this, even though I'd known it before, was that I have aspirations to get into pro wrestling. Could I aspire to be on that show without taking a label? And that was the first time that really hit me of is that what this is for? Is that is this when there is that outside of me thing that goes, okay, it's time to put a label on. And I'm caught between this rock and a hard place of, not that I'm dying and dreaming of doing this, but it gave me a really concrete thing of this is a thing that I have a lot of admiration and respect in. And if I was in that business, I would love to be a part of. And then it became a question of, could I be a part of that without donning, one of those labels? I don't want to say hat, because that implies a change in behavior. And I'm still whoever I am. My behavior doesn't change, just the hat that I'm wearing. But I'm caught between that and not wanting to take on any label at all, due to not wanting to be wrong or not to feel like I was lying or a fraud to people.
Gosh. Okay.
I know, right? See, this is why I wanted to sit down.
Because you keep adding on, and yeah. I'm okay, what part am I unpacking first here?
It's a whole big thing, but that's why I wanted to, I was dead set on having this conversation today, whether recorded or not, but I felt like this would be a really good thing to hash out for other people maybe dealing with similar things.
Okay, so
we're playing a little armchair therapist today.
All right,
Forward. I hope you're ready. Get your
maybe that'll be a fun name for
get
this.
Your chaise lounge. Oh no, I've been wanting for ages for multiple things to record a little jingle to the Doofenshmirtz Evil Incorporated to Kermit Plays Armchair Pop Therapist. but I don't have an instrument that I can play that doesn't involve me blowing into my melodica, so which means I couldn't sing at the same time. So here we are.
You could record the music and then sing over it.
Or I could just splice it in right here. Bibbidi-bibbidi-bop!
Kermit plays armchair pop therapist.
See, it wasn't that great. It was great. Right forward, it was great. Okay, so yeah, so let's
Beautiful.
start. Help me start unpacking this.
Okay. So, I guess here's the question. Here's an overarching question I want to start with. Do you feel that the only reason you would want to have a label is for other people?
I guess yes, because my thought is always, if I start putting a label on myself, my behavior doesn't change. I'm still me. I don't go, I'm this, and then become more of that. I'm me, and I'm going to keep being me, and I'm going to be more me over time.
Yes. So
it's, I mean, a label in general is for other people, at least for me, because I guess the other thing I guess this is the labels conversation, is that the label is either for you to find like-minded people or for people to get a better understanding of you.
So we're at a very interesting point in the history of humanity, I guess you could say.
Correct.
When
aren't
we? When aren't we? Yeah, of course. But one of the interesting things that is a question I've posed in general in thought exercises is how much are we starting to drift into what I would call almost, and I hate the term almost, but I haven't thought of a really good one, but a post-gay world. And what I mean by that, just
the
hold
gay
up.
apocalypse has happened.
No.
We're all wearing
No.
our spiky shoulder pads. Everybody's really stereotypically, in a maybe not greatest way, just covered in leather and spikes.
Get out of my dreams. Anyway, so just messing with you. Okay, so anyway, unless call me. No, okay. Anyway, so as we've really developed, and I think things like this is one of those areas where an interesting conversation with a mutual friend of ours, Riftwing Designs, sparked this thought bubble in me about how much the advent of the internet age has allowed for a growth in just knowledge about sexuality and gender as a whole.
Knowledge about other people and their experiences, I would say, is a more focused version
exactly.
of your thought.
But it's kind of allowed more of an exploration in all of us here, and where we've kind of slowly been moving into a world where, for the longest time it was just LGBT. And then it was LGBTQ, and then it was like LGBTQIA+. And it's like, as time goes on and we really look at sexuality and gender, and we discover that both of them are just much more of a spectrum than we ever gave it credit for. And it's a lot more fluid than we ever gave it credit for in the past, too. So it's that question of, like, how much are we drifting into a world where it's no longer, like, as much about gay and straight as everybody's just somewhere along the line, and where their position is on the line might change.
What's the distance between bi and pan and all the other more directly cutting labels in between?
Well, and I think that's my point.
Is an extra thought to that, yeah.
Well, and
or an example.
To add on to that, I feel like it's kind of the differences in the eye of the beholder almost, and what does that label mean to you personally about yourself. Now, that's a big thing about this, is about the difference between labeling yourself and how others view your label.
Exactly. I feel like this is, I've caught you in my little, in my, not bear trap, because that's like pain. It's that one that gets you by the ankle and you get hoisted up, is that it's what it means to you. But a label directly is least useful to you unless you're looking for other people that match that label, because as we said, like, at least with my personal take on is that putting a label on myself doesn't change my behavior. I'm already whoever I am. We're just trying to classify whatever that is. So it changes other people's behaviors around me, because now they have a thing they can grab from me and go, oh yes, Kermit is blank.
It does a little bit of both, I would argue, because part of it, and it depends on your person, you and your experience and where you're at in life, and a lot of different factors. Because I know when I came out of the closet when I was a teenager, like, my existence as being a gay man was, like, very important to me. Like, that label carried something to it. and it helped define me. So I took ownership of and power from the label itself. Now, as I got older, the label didn't necessarily mean as much. And I think that's a thing that I've been discovering here is like, you know, like, okay, there's the big thing, because granted, let's face it, I have to deal with label stuff too, because I'm marrying a woman.
Yeah. Even though I continue to call you gay because you are just...
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though I know you're technically... Like, again, this is where we come to the... How much is a label a thing you get to describe, and how much is a label is just a thing that describes you? If I don't eat any meat, am I a vegetarian, or am I only a vegetarian if I say I'm a vegetarian and I don't eat meat?
That's an interesting question.
And that's what these things are. It's the... If this... Is it a satisfying of logic gates, or is it something... Is it a... I don't want to use hat, but hat, it's such an easy metaphor. Or is that a hat that you put on of your own volition?
So... It's interesting. So there are respected members, I think, of the LGBTQ persuasion, you know?
Okay.
Community was the word I wanted, actually. That will kind of have a general label, but they'll even say that, like, even that label's not all forming, you know, like... Just because I say I'm this doesn't mean I have to conform to this, that, or the other thing. Which I think is a movement growing, but it still needs time to grow. You know, about the fluidity movement, I would almost argue, just needs more time to grow in the sense of...
I think we've got other things to figure out, but I think once... My gut feeling says once trans settles in more, I feel like fluid is where we're headed next in that. But I feel like that's still not for a while. But I like that thought. You saying that made me think of that. So
yeah, so it's... So I think the thing here is, like... It's a tough thing to kind of label yourself. Because traditionally, a lot of things along, like, the LGBT spectrum especially, is, like... For a lot of people, and I don't want to make assumptions about things, but for a lot of people, for a long time, having the label was important. Because it's kind of, part of it is that, like, if you were gay for a long time, you were persecuted against.
Yeah.
And so the idea almost is, like, to take back the power and use, like, you know, like, we are gay and we are proud, and the label has to carry some weight within that.
It was a solidarity, and that was the verbal flag you were underneath.
Yes. So it's at the end of the day, let's face facts, and I don't usually talk like this, but whoever you want to fuck is whoever you want to fuck. Like,
yeah, I mean,
and it's nobody's business but your own.
That was my, you know... Like, that is true. So, to put a label on that is only the chance to invite being wrong. And to close yourself out from things that you might end up liking that you couldn't have seen.
And that's the thing
so why put it on at all?
Well, and I get that, 100%, because it's like it's kind of the idea of, like, people not coming out until they're ready to come out, and don't push them to do so. Because not everybody's ready to come out right away. People sometimes are like, you know, like, I feel like I need to explore more, or, like, I have fears about, you know, putting that label on myself and how my family will react and stuff, and you can never tell somebody this is the right time and this is the wrong time, because it's individual on each person. So, that being said, it's like, I think it would be incredibly unfair where if you don't feel a strong connection to one thing or another, it would be incredibly unfair to say that you had to take on a moniker, you know, a label within it. Because then it's almost like, kind of like you said, like, are you subconsciously pushing yourself in a direction, not knowing that whether or not that's really where you want to go?
It's that, and it's a constant feeling of imposter syndrome because I don't see people who remind me of me, but also, like, I can't see me because that sounds a really dumb existentially way of saying it, of like, I mean, obviously I can look in a mirror, but moment to moment, I'm just in my own head. And I can't see, it's like, if I saw myself outside of my own body, would I go, oh, that person looks, just don't want to say queer in this case. Like we've talked about, and I mean that in a positive way. Because like we've talked about, I don't remember if on mic or not, of like there's certain people we see and we go, that's one of us. There's certain people and the way they dress, the way they act, the way they look. There's just, you get a vibe of like, oh, you're one of the people. You're one of ours.
And I think like, and I want to add on to that what we mean by that is like, it's really like all positive. Like,
oh yeah, 100%.
Like, you're a cool person that I want to hang out with, and
Yeah.
I can tell by like I can just
the
tell.
vibe off of you, or again, what you're wearing, how you present yourself, stuff like that.
It was like we went to Build-A-Bear, Rose and I, and there was the girl who helped us out there. We were chatting her up and stuff, and it was like we were almost tempted to be like, "Yo, do you want to just hang out and have drinks after
Are
this?"
we best friends?
Like, because just seems like somebody we should be doing that with. I guess there's the thing too about like, because I noticed this. I don't often talk about religion, so this is going to be interesting.
Fun.
But it's a thing I notice in certain religious communities, and I would say maybe spiritual communities might be more appropriate here, about things like Wiccan, pagan, and a lot of the things that kind of fall under that, like earth religion.
Got it.
Where there are some people who get really hung up about how do you identify yourself? Do you identify yourself as Wiccan? And if so, like, do you follow this type of practice? And like, you know,
What
this,
does
that,
it
and
mean
the
to
other
take
thing.
that on as a hat?
Or like, you know, are you content to just wear like, you know, a label like pagan, which has like so many different possible meanings and such.
To be so open as to be almost meaningless in its description.
Well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, let's face it, that moniker carries a lot.
It carries
of
a lot
stigma.
of it carries a lot of weight, but it carries very little actual mechanical meaning. It just carries its weight.
It does and it doesn't. Like, you know what I mean?
Like
Like
stigma.
it
I feel like stigma
depends,
is my weight is a way of capturing stigma and other things. It carries a lot of information around it, but it carries very little actual I feel like I know more of the stigma around it than I know the actual practices of anything.
The thing about labels is labels have the ability to simultaneously be empowering and defeating at the same time. And depending on how you look at them. And the biggest thing is how it feels to you and how much you can take ownership over how you identify as yourself.
What if you feel like an imposter taking on a label, even if it mechanically from certain descriptors fits you?
Well,
this
is the thing about
that's
it.
the other part of my dilemma besides a label can only be wrong, and I think some of that is born out of I will feel like a fake if I take on any of them that were outside of my quote-unquote original box. Because that's how my brain still sees myself. And it's like, I have mechanically broken the bounds of what it means to be straight. So clearly I can't be straight.
Okay. So...
But I feel
guess,
scared. I feel like an imposter taking on another label that isn't that. Because I feel like I can only be wrong, even though I am mechanically that is a false statement to say.
So... Okay. So... Do you feel a pressure to take on a pre-existing label?
Normally, no, but that was what made the whole premise of this interesting. If I needed something to go, I'm not the basic thing that this wrestling show is supposed to be showing these people who didn't get the shot because they are not the norms of society. How do you go, I am not the norms of society? Because I am in my subconscious brain, I am still straight cis male. In my subconscious. Even though mechanically, I've done things that make that not fit anymore and have other feelings and beliefs that also wouldn't fit those bounds.
So, I guess... Did I step on you? I'm sorry.
It's fine. Step on me. Don't step on me. Big steppy.
So... I guess part of this is somewhat about questions and dialogue to have with yourself, because you talk about subconsciously, you still feel that kind of connect. Do you feel the connection to those labels still? Like, is it one of those things where it's like hard to break from those labels?
I've always had it, and it's not because by virtue of how those work, I never had to consciously take them on. It's just the ones that I've had forever, because it's what you...
Okay.
It's the starter box if you don't know any better.
Okay, so this gives good material here for us to go with. So that's all of us. And to be blunt, especially too, like, everything carries a different label, or not different label, like, everything carries a different set of circumstances depending on the intersectionality of your being. So things like your race, your sex, your gender, all of that stuff adds on to it there. But, I started out with where I was born, and for the first however many years of my life, you could have easily looked at me and went, that's a white, cis, male, straight boy. And the big thing for me was, like, when I started figuring out, like, something didn't feel right. Because it was interesting, because, like, I've talked about this before, that, like, when I was in 7th grade, I have a vivid memory. I don't have that many memories from childhood, but this is one that sticks out to me from 7th grade, of seeing an ad in a magazine that had 2 shirtless boys on it and being like,
this hits the button.
Yum, yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't understand what it meant.
Well, no, because we don't freaking understand it back then. But it's like,
But I guess that's the other thing too, of like I put so much weight on, the label of gay, I think, in my late teens and early 20s, that I don't put as much weight on anymore.
Because you don't need to.
Because I don't, well, exactly, like, I don't need to. Like, I feel like, do I associate as part of the LGBTQIA plus community? Oh my god, of course, 100,000,000%. Do I still find guys hot? Of course. No,
Yeah.
Like, no kidding. None of that stuff has changed about me, but it's like, part of it is the world has changed around me too.
Yeah.
I mean, let's
Things
face
have
it.
moved on
like,
a little bit, or moved forward, not on.
Being in a world where now, like, marriage equality has happened and everything, like...
Mostly.
I
don't want to paint too many rainbows here. Let's get a little real.
But okay.
No, I get what you mean. I'm sorry, I'm being a downer.
My life today is nothing like, in terms of being a gay man, is nothing like it was when I was 18.
Correct.
Nothing.
I would agree with that statement.
So, because of progress, like, progress in and of itself has made me feel, like, freer about that. Like, I don't have to hang on to this label as heavily, and I don't have to have it define my personality as much anymore, because, like, I don't know, like, maybe it's that, like, it's not that we don't have to fight. We still have to fight.
Yeah.
But I don't have to feel afraid every time I walk out my door that I might be the victim of a gay bashing. And this is a thing that I experience now it's an interesting thing I experience now with Rose, with my partner, because, as much as we're talking a lot more about transgender rights, there's still a lot
to do, and a lot just of general populist and socialist, and we're not populist. I don't even know what I'm saying.
But there are times where she's just uncomfortable about things and being in certain situations, and I remember what it was like for me. And I can easily go, I feel comfortable here now, but I know she can't. And, and I have to respect that.
Probably be another generation until that happens.
And,
truthfully,
we're working.
Yeah, no, progress is being made. That came out in a very low tone, but that was a very positive thing to think, I would say. Or at least thought out of my brain is a positive one.
I think the thing here, and I guess, like, the most important thing I would think for you would be, like, do you internally think you would ever want like, if you could find a label that worked for you, do you think you would be happy having it, or does the very concept of labels creep you out?
When I learned about demisexual, it made things click, and I grabbed onto it.
Okay.
And that helped a lot. But it was also a label that I had never heard before. Okay, here, freaking forward, prepare whatever accoutrement you would need for a stereotype of a modern therapist, because I would say grab your pipe, but that's very old school. But we're gonna go in deep and hopefully untangle some other things. Okay. So, because all through talking about this, it's like more of it's bubbling up to the surface, and we can untangle a little bit. So, okay, go for it. So me growing up, very just by the numbers. I talk about sometimes I describe that I was a robot back then.
Yes.
And only until literally the last couple of years have I become fully a human. Mm-hmm. I think we've talked about sometime, the pony group happens. I helped, not start, but in a very early thing, became a major leader for a pony group, for, bronies, whatever that. And ran that for many years. And, I guess I've been hearing that it wasn't the norm, but we had a lot of LGBTQ people around. One of the founders was very LGBTQ. So, and I, growing up, despite it not being really present in my house, I had zero problem with any of it. I was very understanding and wanted to be an ally, and that was really important to me to be an ally. And I feel like I always felt like I was an ally, but I was not those things, so I was always outside the bubble. But I was always wanted to be helpful. Fast forward to now, where I'm kind of becoming a human and kind of breaking some of those walls of quote-unquote normalcy down, and I'm still an ally, and I feel like I should be inside the bubble, but I have feelings of... I think that's where that imposter syndrome comes in. It's like, oh, all your friends are in the bubble. You're just saying this because you want to be in the bubble. And I'm going to actually double down on funny. The funny thing is, like, if I told anyone that I knew that I was close to, that it's like, oh, I'm non-binary, I'm gender fluid, they would be so accepting. It would be the easiest thing. There would literally be no friction at all. And for some reason, that makes me feel all the more guilty about trying it, about doing that. And I don't 100% know. I think it's more so because it will make me, and maybe that's the thing, is that it's freaking like when I talked about when I went up in a plane. It's like, this feels like something that should be a lot harder, and it's not. And in this case, that's the same thing. If I told people I was non-binary, it would be the easiest thing in the world for my friends to accept that fact. They would accept it in a moment, and it feels like it should be so much more, and it's not. And I think maybe that's why my brain doesn't want to do it, because it doesn't feel... But maybe not. I don't freaking know. That's the problem. It's like, I shouldn't have any reason for this. All of my friends and people I'm close to would have zero problem accepting it. It literally wouldn't make a difference. But thinking about doing it makes me feel like an imposter. Even though when literally anyone else I know, if they came out as literally anything, I throw like a freaking small party. I do a big hooray, and I freaking want to hug them, and it's the best thing ever. But if I do it, I feel like the hugest liar, the hugest fake imposter, that I'm just saying this so I can be a part of everybody else. Now, and hipstar brain also comes in here, because I think that's why the demi was okay, because it's like, I had never heard demi. No one had ever said that. I never knew what it meant until I learned about it in therapy. And I think my hipstar brain said, well, this doesn't have any other baggage with it with me. It's just a word and the exact meaning it has, so I said, that matches me, I'm going to wear that hat, because that fits me. And I don't have to compare myself to anybody. I only have to compare myself to the definition.
So, I'll say this.
Go for it. That's why you're on this podcast, to say things at me. And to me. To have a conversation.
So, to an extent, I think all of us go through that. Especially those of us who deal with any kind of sexuality and gender identity issues, because part of the experience of figuring out who you are is looking to others who already identify that and being like, am I that?
Yeah, I'm very big and was very big before it. I'm still pretty big on I hold up the picture of me to the thing and I squint my eyes and I go, is this picture alike or different? Is it close enough? I mean, that's why it's freaking one of the reasons the Grog Zone podcast exists, is talking to people and get the way that they approach things and think things. That's why I love my episode with Veronica, because we got to get into a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. So, it was a thing. It was funny because, and I still joke about things like that to this day, about how I would surprise a lot of people. Like, I've always felt like I was very obviously...
You are very stereotypically gay.
But what's funny about that is there were things about me...
Whatever the heck that means.
Well, but there are certain things about me that aren't, too. You know,
Well, yeah,
like,
no, nobody's entirely a stereotype.
right, but it's funny because I can remember times. I mentioned this the other day actually about a time I remember where a bunch of us, like me and a bunch of friends, some straight, some gay, we all went out to. There was a restaurant restaurant chain that used to be big around here called Damon's that I miss dearly, and
Never
they had
heard
the
of that.
best ribs in the world.
Interesting.
Anyway, I loved going there, and they had 4 big, giant, like, projection screens where they would show, like, all the sports games and stuff. And so we went on a Sunday one time, and, you know, football Sunday, and I'm watching the game on the giant screen right in front of me and freaking out the table over the game because I was, you know, for years, was just a huge fan of, you know, of team sports. And, like, my gay friends at the table would look at me and be like, who the hell are you? Because it's like, it doesn't fit, right? It doesn't fit that mold or that stereotype.
Yeah, I mean, the two major things I would describe you as, in a nice, meaningful, friendly way, is nerd and gay. And both of those are not usually known for sports.
Yeah. Yeah.
More the nerd part, actually. Like, legit, that's the one that always surprises. I always forget that you're big into sports, but it's mostly the nerd part, I think, personally. But I totally see what you mean.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Stanley Cup playoffs are going on right now, and I really want to watch the finals. I haven't watched
Well,
them.
I'm sorry, you're stuck here recording this podcast with me!
Not this second. Not this second, but the one conference final is tonight. But anyway, so...
Hopefully we'll be done by then.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for the Canadians at this point.
Yeah.
Got that on camera. Hi, Viandis. I'm rooting for your Canadians. Anyway, so I definitely have had that, and that's a thing I think a lot of us struggle with, where you have to find your sense of where you break down what the label means to others versus what the label means to you, and it may just be the fact that you haven't found the right label yet.
I mean, I think I have. I think it's that thing. It's just, I could take it on, but I don't... I don't know if stigma is the word, but whatever thing of just everybody I've seen with this doesn't seem like it fits me, but I feel like... Because, I mean, I don't know if we talked about this on podcast, but I've talked about it to multiple people about it. Is like, I don't feel kinship with, like, I guess we'll just say men, like masculine men people, and I never have. I always felt like growing up, I never felt I fit whatever that was. I never felt a sense of like brotherhood is not really a thing I ever felt like a sense I had.
Okay,
I've been in groups, like feeling a sense of a group is cool. Community is important, but I've never felt that, and I feel like I describe it like islands. It's like I don't really feel like I belong on this island. I don't think this is my space. But also in, like, of a trans sense, it's like, I don't really fit on female island. I don't fit on lady island. Like, you know, Rose took her boat and went to the other island. She said, this is my island. This is where I belong. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I'm somewhere in the middle and just go, my boat is my island and this is where I'm at. And that some of that's, you know, but clearly that means I'm not the one thing. And I can't be nothing. I have to be something. But what is that? And I guess it would be non-binary. I don't feel like I fit either of that much. I freaking sip from both vats. And I feel like, mechanically speaking, that would be non-binary.
There are different...
Whatever the heck gender means.
So there's non-binary. There's also the term agender, too. Which is okay, that's fine. I'm just throwing things out there.
I also, because I'm me, have a dislike of, like, we cut this cheese really finely to get so uber specific about a thing, and I go, I mean, I do that with music genres, so I'm like, freaking get your head out of your own tuchus, like, we don't need to be this, like, slicey and dicey about a topic. And that comes back to go to your thing.
Then I just turn that around back on you, because are you doing that to yourself?
What, that I feel like I need it to be more slicey and dicey, or I'm calling these things slicey and dicey?
Either.
I mean, I could just say I'm non-binary and probably be fine with it, but something inside me won't let me do that, and I don't know what. Even though it fits it, and I like it, I like that term, like, I'm fine with it. It captures what it is.
But you have to find what it means for you. There is what it means for other people, and the big thing, like, no two non-binary people that I know are the same. Like...
No. Yeah, yes. Pour the bucket on me. You're going to say a bunch of things I agree with, but I need to hear them. Pour the bucket on me.
There's no two non-binary people. I know quite a few fantastic people, and like, granted, I've not really had direct conversations with them of like, what does it mean to be non-binary? But at the same token, like, they just live their lives and their truth, and it's easy for me to just look at them and accept it as their truth in the way they are living their own truth, and it just happens to fit within that bubble. I feel like non-binary is kind of a wide bubble, because let's face it, if you're non-binary, you're kind of in this, like, if man is here and woman is here and non-binary is everything in the middle. Think about all the space that encompasses.
Yep.
And all the variations that can take place.
That feels fitting.
Right. Well, that's my point, though, is there's so many variations within that.
What's stopping me from putting the hat on if it fits? Here, okay.
Who are you trying to convince?
I guess me. Here, point blank, probably stupid question. Forward. Would I be describable as queer? Am I describable as queer? Without even putting a label on.
Yes.
Why?
Yes. You have an air about you. You have a thing about the way you carry and present yourself that is, like, it is unlike most people I know, and it's very much like, and some things seem oversimplifying. Like, it's hard to almost pinpoint the exact, because, like, I feel like...
Because it's a vibe. Like, that's what we talked about with, like, oh, that's one of our people. If we, even though we've never met and we haven't even talked to them yet, we get... There's that sense.
It's the thing of, like, we were literally talking about dresses and skirts the other day.
Yeah.
Could that be part of it? Yes. Does it have to be?
No.
Exactly.
Like, I'm literally going to Target this week, before this recording, to go try on dresses with Rose.
Yeah. So... Like, I guess that's my whole point.
But is that enough? Like, why do I need this validation?
Why does it have to be enough? Like,
why do I need validation from you, even if I'm okay being myself?
Let me ask you this: if that's not enough, at what point will it be enough? And that's the thing I kind of think you need to ask yourself.
Exactly.
Because it's like, is there a point where it is enough? Because it's like I don't want to say you're overthinking, because that's not necessarily true, because I don't think you can overthink this, because I think that's part of the process.
Yeah, I know. I know what you mean.
So, it's like, I guess it's just asking yourself of, like, are you fighting this for the sake of fighting it? Is there a reason you're fighting it? Or is it just that it doesn't feel right to you? Because if it feels right to you and you're worried about everybody else, that's one thing. You know, if it doesn't feel right to you, that's a different thing. And I guess that's the big thing I think I would ask you, and you don't have to answer this now, this is more of a ponder thing, am I scared of the label just because of everybody else, or am I scared of the label because it doesn't feel right to me?
I'm scared of the label because I don't want to be a liar or an imposter or a fake. Even though I'm the one that gets to determine if that label fits, and like I said, there's no one I know who would have any problem accepting it on me.
So, okay.
Why do I feel closer to accepting it? Because you validated me in that space. Why did my brain need that? Why? Because I guess, maybe that comes back to that. It's like, you don't earn a label, but why do I feel like that's what I need, but maybe that's not what I need in a healthy way. But like, you telling me that, because I can tell myself stuff all day. As a robot, I was really good at lying to myself unknowingly, and I think that's why it's like, I don't trust myself, maybe, in that regard.
So, I feel
because I wasn't me for so long, essentially since I was born almost.
You know, one thing that killed me when I was younger is that thing that people would be like, how do you know you're gay if you've never slept with a woman? Right? Granted, I have by now, but that's not the point.
No, I know what you mean.
But it's that thing of, like, that thing of, like, you need to do a certain thing to validate
Are you a bi woman if you marry a man? I feel like that's I'm not asking that question. I'm bringing it up as a topic.
No. That's a very good point to bring up.
You're still a bi. If you identify as bi and you marry a man, You're still bi. You still like both. It's not like you have to marry both to be bi. That's not how that works.
Well,
see what I mean? Here is me defending a thing against the stereotype on it.
Yeah, exactly.
If it's someone that it's me. There is something inside me that is stopping me from doing this.
So I guess that's the big question: is asking yourself, okay, so the whole fraud liar thing. It's like I could say to myself, like, I feel like it's a little bit different in this scenario because I think a lot of the things for me that held me back is fear of how I would be treated by the outside world, fear of, being told I was going to go to hell or whatever just all that stuff. And I can still remember when I was 18 and I was with my boyfriend at the mall and we held hands and somebody had to stop to us to ask us why we were gay and why we thought this was okay.
Why are you gay? Because it's cool.
I mean, it is, but that's not the point.
I know,
But anyway.
You just, freaking moonwalk off with your shades on. It's great.
Man, I would have done that.
You did it in my memory, even though I wasn't there.
I've always been Mr. Diplomat, though. I tried to reason with him, which,
doesn't always work. That's not how it
works. But that's neither
story for
here
another
nor
time.
there. I guess that's the thing, though, is I had to deal with accepting that this was my reality and go through my whole steps. And I guess part of this here, too, is going along with the fear of how you come out and such. I don't think anybody would judge, and those who would can just eat a brick.
Yeah,
but
it wouldn't cause a stir.
But it's
I wouldn't lose anybody. There would be no problem.
But here's the thing, though. This is the more important part. I think I'm getting to is you could come out and be slightly wrong, and later come out as something else, and that's
totally fine.
Okay.
Exactly. Yep. I've said it to other people.
I've known people who came out as non-binary and then came out as trans.
I know.
Or vice versa.
Haven't you ever had a thing where you gave proper medicine and wouldn't take it yourself? That's literally our
you've
lives.
Met me.
I know! You've met me too! That is what this is. I mean, I even talked... Here, this is something I've been holding on to that I think I even talked to you a couple days ago. If I am in essentially, if I'm around my friends, if I'm in a queer safe place, is the most when I least feel like I want the label. If I was in a space that wasn't that, and if I could stand up for somebody, I would don that label in a heartbeat. I think that was a conversation a while ago, actually related to this original topic with wrestling. If it was just for me, if I want to kind of be a ref, because I don't know if I'm freaking tough enough to be a wrestler, but that's not either here nor there. It's if I was just a cool ref, and I go, oh, I'm non-binary, it's I don't want to be known as that. But it's if I could do that and give somebody else the opportunity to go, that person's non-binary, that gives me a, I don't know if role model is the right word, but that gives me, it's somebody that's like me is in that space. Because I've already had that with other places, where I see, it's not me, but there's originally non-binary, I think actually now trans wrestler used to be named Still Life, is now named Edith Strange, who
oh, I know you're talking about.
Freaking love and champion, because they're in a space that isn't normally, again, pro wrestling is not the most accepting until kind of recently, where it's been a growing thing, isn't always the most accepting of things outside the very straight white norm. And that's the thing, it's when it's in a space that isn't that, it's if I could be it for someone else, if I could be that ally in that moment that goes, I'm like you, and together we're going to push back whatever the bad is, I feel like it burns in me that it's no, I'm part of this, I'm with you. But if I'm not in that space, I go, I don't want the label. And I think part of that is hipstar brain, because it's if everybody's got it, I'm not special, which is the stupidest freaking way to think about yourself. That's stupid, and I know that, but that doesn't... You know as well as me, our brains are freaking stupid a lot of the time, and logic and reason aren't anything.
Okay.
And that's why it's just...
Yes.
That's why I'm shouting, and that's why we're having this whole conversation is, can I get to the heart of this to figure out where this problem is coming from? If I just shout it, does it become true, and the Band-Aid is ripped off, the weight is lifted from my chest, and I can be freed of these freaking, mental fraud feelings?
But
if I just stated, in all reality and actuality, and came out to the world and just said, I'm non-binary, boom, done, whatever. The Band-Aid pulled off. Does anything change? The air didn't change in the room, the air conditioner's on, it's really nice. I'm going to keep wearing dresses like I were before I freaking declare this to the world. I'm going to keep finding the people I find attractive. Not that non-binary has anything to do with that, but it's I'm I'm going to keep doing the behavior I was doing. Literally nothing has changed right now for my own personal behavior.
So...
Except, of course, awfully just dealing with the fraud things, but, like, my moment-to-moment behavior does not change. I don't start doing things. I don't start wearing more makeup. I mean, I wanted to do that anyways, but, like, nothing changes because I put the hat on.
I guess that's part of this here, and it's hard to describe until you go through it fully and get to the other side about when you come out and, you know, you actually... Because I'm not gonna lie, like, when I was a teenager, saying the words, I'm gay...
was dangerous.
Well, it was dangerous, and it was, like, I'd get a lump in my throat when trying to say it. And even when I came out to my parents, I told them, I think the words I used was, I think I'm bi, because... well, that was the thing, is, like, in my head, I was like, well, maybe they'll be more accepting if I just say that.
That's you wading into the pool.
Yeah. And then, eventually, it was like, no, Jer's gay as hell.
And now he's bi again. Man, ain't the world funny?
Well...
Technically, it's complicated. Let's not get into that.
But I think that's the big thing, too, about this, is, like, you know, at this point, it's not as big of a deal. But at the time, it was. And the biggest thing was getting those words out and coming out to people was the most important thing I ever did in my entire life. Because I did not realize how much weight I was carrying, and it was all of a sudden gone. Of hiding myself and hiding a secret from the world.
It's dawning on me from your story that I feel like garbage, and maybe that's just... I guess it's a good thing I feel like garbage, because you coming out was out of fear of being accepted, and I have the opposite problem. This is a first world LGBTQ problem, where literally, if I think about this every time I think about this. If I make a post on Facebook that says, I'm non-binary, seeing all my friends being supportive of me pisses me off for some reason. It just makes me mad, and I don't know why. Even though, like I said, I've had other people do that, and I was over the moon and overjoyed. Why does it piss me off?
Is it that you know that because you have friends that have struggled and you feel like you're getting off easy?
That's where feeling like garbage comes from, but I guess it means it's changing things. I mean, yeah, maybe it is that. Maybe we come back to that whole of just like, this feels like it should be a bigger deal than it is because I've been hearing it for so long, and it's not.
I mean,
or it's not a big thing in the literal moment that the words are spoken or the text is written out on screen and sent out to the internet.
I mean, I've always kind of envisioned that world where it was like people just were. And
so why be? If everything is, why be? Why make a point of being if you just are? This sounds so dumb. I've also been playing a lot of Baba Is You, but like...
Well, I mean, like, okay, so the basis of things like labels are there for a very important reason, and it's basically so our brain can comprehend the world.
Correct.
Now, labels in and of themselves are neither good nor bad, they just exist. It's the attributes people associate with them is where it gets into the positive, negative, stigma, etc. Territory there. And that's where over time, in a large population, things develop one way or another, both positive and negative. So, the one thing I've always said, and I've done a presentation on this years ago, and I might bust it back out again at some point, is I did a presentation on labels way back in college in 2015, and it was called Labels Own Yourself. So, like, and yourself was 2 separate words.
Nice.
So, it's like on the end of the day, you get to decide what your label means to you for your own being. Other people are gonna assign things to it, and you can't help it.
Nope.
But you can decide what it means for you.
Yep. And
other people could say shitty things, and you could be like, no, this gives me power.
But
and that's entirely up to you.
I guess counterpoint of my own gremlin brain is, why invite that in at all if you don't have to?
It's a matter of finding peace with yourself.
It's a very good way to put it.
Because I wouldn't have peace with myself if I never came out.
I mean, I guess obviously as we can hear me shouting for the last almost hour that I clearly I'm not at peace with myself on this. Okay, here's a very real hypothetical. If I came out as non-binary, what's the literal worst thing that could happen?
literal.
I'm putting my hands up in the air like it's nothing.
It's the well, that's the thing about this is like I could come up with a million potential scenarios that I don't think will happen.
Exactly. In reality, in the basic reality of the people that we know in the world I live in, what would happen?
I guess part of it...
What is the worst that could happen?
Part of it is...
People have already seen me wearing dresses, or skirts at least. I want to buy a dress. The people have seen me wear makeup.
It's like where you...
People have seen me be me.
This is where you go. Like, a matter of, like... You've kind of, like... One nice thing that you've been able to do, and maybe this is part of the guilt feeling type of thing, is you have been able to stake out where you're at in life. Like, you're in a stable position, you have solid friends who will support you, etc., etc. And not a lot of us got to do that when we came out. It's true. Granted, all of us would be envious of you for that. But, like, I don't think we would get mad at you.
Ford, I think you unraveled it. It's guilt. It's like, I'm genuinely, like, I'm feeling it all unravel in my brain. I wish you could see me, but I didn't want to turn the camera on to make this as easy as possible to record. I think it is genuinely guilt. I think I see all my friends who are on that spectrum and all the shit they had to deal with. Apologies for swearing, but this is like, it's literally just this pouring out of me. I might start crying at any point. And I think because I never put up with that, I can't put on that hat. I'd feel bad about it. That I'd skip that over all of it and would just go, well, you've all done your suffering, and I'm just going to pop my hat on, and we're going to move on. Well, I think that's why I feel like an imposter. I think that's why there's a sense of guilt, is that all my friends had to put up with that stuff, and I didn't, and I'd feel bad about going. It's a feeling of, I don't belong, because that didn't happen to me. That had never happened to me. And
but to be fair,
I think that's the root of it.
I think this is the dream we've all wanted, though. We all wanted a world where somebody can actually come out and not get shit for it. We've all wanted that. We've all fought for it. So, for somebody to be able to do it is like saying it was something worth fighting for. I could argue. It's kind of like, even what I had to go through was still work in progress from the people who fought at Stonewall back in the day.
Yeah. Like,
everything has led up to now. And we want to keep moving it forward. So, it's... You shouldn't have to feel guilty about it. Like, and anybody who's going to make you feel guilty is a bum. Because, let's face it, obviously you've had inner turmoil over it, so it's not like you didn't do anything.
This might be an oversimplification. I think this is where my Catholic guilt went to hide. Like, no joke. Because I know that's
no.
That's a big thing. I had to cast off a lot of that. I have a buddy who's still casting it off. He's stuck in it. Like,
we're talking about the same. It is who I'm thinking, right?
We'll wink each other in Morse code about who it is afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. I genuinely think that's it. I think it's guilt. I think it's that I didn't have to put up with that, so I don't just like. It's not that I'm a fake. It's that I don't deserve to do this. But that's not how it works. Like, you, oh my gosh, you framing it as the like that's the future we all like. I want to both cry and hug you, and again that guilt comes around to beat myself up, and it's like, no, don't do that. That doesn't help. But it's just like, I think we unraveled it. I think we genuinely unraveled it. Like, you can obviously hear by my tone changing that I'm not shouting and I'm not angry and I'm not trying to find the answer. Like, I genuinely think we found it.
Yeah.
It's literally just...
Yeah, because when you messaged me yesterday, I wanted to talk about so much.
Yep.
But I was at work, and I'm like, I cannot have this conversation now.
Yeah.
Like, this needs to be a longer conversation.
Yep. And I knew, like I said, whether it was recorded or not, and, like, I knew it would be a good one to record. I think it genuinely was, because this feels like a really real conversation. Not that the ones we normally have aren't real, but, like, you like literally like
this is like just us talking.
A turmoil that I've had on my consciousness for years has just been not entirely lifted, but like the lock, like it's been unraveled enough that I can start unraveling the rest of it myself.
Yeah.
But it was stuck. I could not get it. It's the freaking mug that's stuck in my bowl that actually happened in my kitchen when I was washing dishes, and it's my favorite cereal bowl, Mom! I don't know why I'm shouting Mom. It's not the fault. I was washing my own dishes, And I have these teacups the Christmas teacups I drink my morning orange juice out of, and I put it inside this green ceramic cereal bowl. It's supposed to be a soup bowl because it's got a little like loop on it, like a big teacup. And now they're stuck inside of each other because they both expanded when the sink was hot. And I've tried everything, and they're stuck together. But now we've gone beyond that. They've loosened up enough that I can get it out the rest of myself metaphorically, but not physically. Gosh, I hope one day to eat cereal out of that bowl.
This bowl is stuck with you.
It's on my to-do list. It makes me feel like every day I look at it and I try to get it out, and it constantly makes me feel like I have something undone in the house, and it makes me very anxious. But now you know what anymore? This doesn't. This, like, I feel more at peace, and I feel like...
Yay!
I feel like I still need some days and some conversations, but, like... I think the exit of the... Is there other metaphors besides closet? I feel like gays have nailed down closet as the thing they come out of, but...
I mean, like... At this point, it's kind of an umbrella term, let's face it.
I came out of my umbrella. Ella. No, that feels like coming out like a lesbian. I don't know. We're freeballing. I'm emotionally spent now.
Well, we can't use stable because that's coming out as a brony.
That's coming out as a brony.
And
coming out of my cage, and I've been doing just fine.
You know, that's the other interesting thing about me having this conversation with you, because of that reality that I've had to come out as various things in my life, because being gay was just one of my coming out. Because, like, when I got diagnosed as HIV positive, that was a whole other coming out.
Yeah,
and that was a whole other ball.
That's its own board game.
Mm-hmm. And
with
again,
expansion packs already built in. It's
and
huge.
then when I realized I was into pony, and I'm like, I have to come out as a brony.
I have to come out again. I already came out as 2 really hard. Can I go back to bed? This is a lot. I've already done enough.
Well, yeah,
Why do I have to do this too?
Believe it or not, like, it made it a little easier having come out, you know, as gay and having come out as HIV positive.
But
it was still weird and tough because it was really hard for me to tell my boyfriend at the time that I was into ponies.
Oh, I remember the early days when I felt like a freaking. I didn't want anybody to know. That's not what this episode is about, and we really need to wrap this up because this went way longer than I was expecting. But I'm happy to, because I feel like we came to we properly played our armchair therapist, and I don't think I could have actually figured this out with an actual therapist, because I think we have enough history that and your particular history, literally your history, helped unravel it more.
Yay! So, I'm glad. I'm glad I could assist.
Thank you, everyone, on the whatever this is.
We'll put a label on this.
Did you know that was your joke before you said it, or did it become a joke as you said it?
It was just coming out of my mouth.
Beautiful. Thank you, everybody, for joining myself, Kermit the Grog, on my freaking transcendental journey in my own psyche, and my wonderful armchair therapist, Forward Progress, sitting across from me of the mic. I think if you look hard enough, you can find me on Twitter if you want to talk about this. I don't know where else you'd reach me. I hope you were... I don't even know if the word is entertained on this episode. I hope your brain is full of thoughts. I hope you've been able to maybe view the world a little differently. Maybe you viewed yourself differently. I just hope you have a good day, everybody. I hope you're living your life. I hope you're finding what you need to find and becoming who you need to be. Because I think that's what we all need.
Yeah. I don't know if I could really add much to that.
Yeah.
I agree wholeheartedly. Thank you guys for listening. We really didn't know what this was going to become.
No,
I'll be honest.
I didn't even know we'd reach an end to it, but we did.
We wanted to talk, and Kermit said, "Let's record," so we did.
It felt like it was going to be one of those ones that felt meaningful, and I'm glad to have this recorded.
I hope at least, you know, putting this out there gets it such that someone, you know, that you, the listener, can take something away from this.
You can maybe hear something, somebody out there might hear something they need to hear to try to overcome a similar situation to mine. So who knows? So thank you for joining us. Have a lovely life, everybody.
Yes.
You do your thing. Until next time. See ya.
A huge thank you to our patrons, SamuDash, Jason Kuzmak, Statman Dan, NeverendingNerd, Riftwing Designs, and Frenchie McHugh. Without your support, this project wouldn't be possible.